Well, February is Black History Month, and tonight we are speaking to a specialist who uses to empower and educate families.
Ernest Krim III, a former high school educator, runs his old consulting firm, joins us live here tonight. It's so great to have you on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you all for having me.
Oh, we're excited to learn a little bit about you. How'd you become a Black history content creator and author?
So what happened was I was actually, I started my book because I dealt with a hate crime in 2016. With this hate crime, my wife and I were verbally accosted. We were at the Margarita Fest in Chicago. We were just minding our business and we were attempting to play cornhole. And what happened was at this event, July 30th, 2016, we grabbed the beanbag that we thought somebody else wasn't using, and a white woman in a group of 3 other people came up to us, started screaming at us, called us the N-word. I started recording.
Wow.
Eventually that led to her spitting. My first piece of content, most people would probably be surprised in 2016, was me posting that video to get justice. Now that was 2016. I started creating vlogs around that time too, just to get my voice out. But it would not be until 2021 that I would create my first TikTok. And that came in the midst of the pandemic. I had tried a variety of different avenues with content. Nothing was like just hitting it, extremely well. But I saw some content creators using TikTok for education. I thought it was just a dance app. So I said, you know what, let me try this out. And I was reading about Ida B. Wells that day, and I said, you know what, Ida B. Wells is something somebody we should know more about.
Right.
So I decided to record a video called Ida B. Wells Was a G, and it took off. And that was in 2021, and then it, has been going on from there.
Oh, now that I think about it, I remember that because Ida B. Wells, I grew up with her great-granddaughter, the Dusters, and of course she was a journalist here from Chicago. So this is amazing. You were a school teacher for 12 years, high school teacher. How does that impact how you have become an education activist today? Yeah,
so as a high school teacher, I initially got involved in education because I felt that when I learned about history, my own history, that it inspired me so much that I felt like if I was able to give the kids in my neighborhood where I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago that same information, that it could, transform our community from the inside out. So for me, it was never just about teaching in the class though. It was also about education happens everywhere. I come from a household where my parents had Black history posters everywhere. My mom was an educator for 30-something years and an administrator, and I saw her taking her, her students to church, raising money to take them to DC, kids from Roseland, and I'm seeing that firsthand, living in that same environment. So for me, it's like education, as far as our community, we know it's been something that's been banned before. So it's not just about sitting there. It's about Frederick Douglass had to risk his life just to learn how to read. He never sat in a school, but he changed the entire country because of this thirst for knowledge that he knew could change our society for the better.
You've seized to social media as a way to connect with people, but in particular children. What do they say when they get to meet someone like you? Because you share a lot, you've been through a lot, and for them to, they all relate to you. And then they see what great aspirations you've had and the things you've accomplished. That's pretty neat.
Before I was well known for making content, I would say I was well known in my classroom and in the school just because of the passion I have for education. Because like I said before, it was never just about teaching in the room. It was about what can I do outside the class. So when I started to, of course, the video was posted in 2016, and then when I started making content and it started making its rounds, it did get interesting to have kids say, Mr. Krim, like I just saw you. And then when we came back from the pandemic, that's when it really started blowing up, because I would have kids stop by my classroom like, Mister, I saw you on my For You page. Well, they would just stare at me sometimes. And I'm like, say hi, it's
okay.
You the guy? Bite.
Right. Are you him?
Yeah, right.
That's so wonderful because, last week, I guess, Schoolhouse Rock celebrated 50 years. Putting knowledge to music has always been a way to teach young people when you couldn't get to them through a book. So you've done something wonderful because you met them where they are on TikTok, because that's where they are. Talk about the value of, there's always the saying, February is the shortest month of the year, the coldest month of the year. Talk about Black history 24/7, 365.
Definitely. So I think it's important, first and foremost, that people realize that Dr. Carter G. Woodson, he did not say, you know what, let's take the shortest month. He deliberately chose February because Black people have been coming together to celebrate Frederick Douglass's birthday, which he appointed himself to have February 14th. He didn't know when he was born. Also, too, we celebrated Abraham Lincoln for his contributions politically. So he said, let's make it this week first. in 1926, and then that ballooned into something in 1976 to be a month. But Dr. Carter G. Woodson's intention was never for us to celebrate it 1 month. It was for us to come together and talk about how we've been celebrating all year round, what we did all year round. And you know, one of my goals and my passions now was to elevate him and what his purpose was, but then now to also take it to that next level where we say this is something we celebrate all year round. Because when I talk to my kids, like my own kids, even when I was in a class, I would say, y'all, look, y'all know we do this all year round.
Right.
Because we're talking about Black history, Hispanic history, Indigenous, Asian history. This is something I was, you know, my mission was to embed all of that, because truly American history is all of us coming together anyway. So one of my next goals, in fact, is to create a book in which I help parents do this year round. So it's not just something we're doing for 28 days.
That's
Yeah,
incredible.
speaking of book, talk about your book as we complete our conversation, our couch conversation, as we call it. Talk about your books.
Yeah, so again, my first book came while I was dealing with the hate crime in 2016. You know, for those out there who are dealing with mental health issues, it came on the heels of me having a mental breakdown, honestly. I was, you know, trying to go through the court system and trying to get justice, and I had a day where I just really felt low. And the only avenue I had to release my frustration was to write, and the book came from that.
Wow.
And one portion of my book that really stood out to me whenever I have speaking engagements too was when I talked about what my mom said to me. She gave me this really powerful affirmation when I was 9, and I asked her why we hadn't had a Black president, and she said it was because they were waiting on me to grow up. So what I did was I took that affirmation and I said I need to remodel that for parents around the world. So my children's book is 26 affirmations.
Okay.
And it's also teaching Black history at the same time. So
Wow.
if that one affirmation changed my life, what would 26 do for yours?
Yeah, Ernest Krim III, changing lives by sharing some time with us. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Come back and visit with us again.
I definitely will. Thanks
Best
for having
blessings, and thank you for what you do to educate.
Appreciate you.
Say hi to those kids,
Yeah.
Mr. Krim, Mr. Elgis, and Ms. Burton.